catch up. Everything is green on YouTube. Just a few seconds more here. Okay. The meeting is yours, Madam Chair. Let me know if you need anything.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josephine Spencer, and I would like to welcome you to the White Lake Zoning Board of Appeals. This board is a quasi-judicial board, which consists of 5 members. In order for your variance to be granted, you must receive a majority vote from the full board. We do have a full board present this evening. In order for this board to grant a variance, you must prove a hardship or practical difficulty exists. Unfortunately, personal hardships of financial concerns will not be considered by this board. If your variance is granted, you have 6 months in which to pull the required permits, or your variance will expire and you must reappear before this board. If your variance is denied, you have the right to appeal this decision. By state statute, you must appeal to the circuit court, and you have 30 days in which to file an appeal. There is no other township board that can overrule this decision. All cases will be heard in the order in which they are presented on the agenda. I will call the case. Staff will give their review, and the proponent will have 20 minutes in which to speak. The board will then ask questions of the proponent, and the public will then ask questions of the proponent, and the public hearing will then be closed. Each member of the public who wishes to speak will have 3 minutes in which to do so. If you are representing a group of homeowners association, you have 5 minutes to speak. However, no other individuals from this group will then be recognized to speak. After the public hearing is closed, the proponent will then have 5 minutes to address any concerns or questions. It will then be brought back to the board for a consideration, a motion, and a roll call. And with that, may we have a roll call, please?
Yep. Tahar?
Here.
Powell?
Here.
Shellac? I see the mouth move. Okay.
Nicholas, you're
Present.
Oh, we hear you. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Present 3 times there.
Walls?
here.
Spencer?
Here. And can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands,
One nation,
God,
under God, indivisible.
With liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve our agenda?
Make the motion.
Do we
Second.
have a, thank you. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have a motion to approve the June 11th, 2020 minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a support?
Support.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And with that, moving on, we have our first case, Stephen Ganger, I hope I pronounced that correctly, 2518 Tackles, also identified as 12-11-478-038. The applicant requests to construct an attached garage requiring variances from Article 3.1.6E, R1D, single-family residential, front yard setback, and lot coverage. And with that, may we have staff report, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, board members. Your first case tonight is a request to construct an addition to a single-family house at 2518 Tackles Drive. This property is almost 4/10 of an acre in size. It's located on Pontiac Lake and zoned R1D, which is a single-family zoning district. Based on the plans submitted by the applicant, the addition would be an attached garage. It would be almost 1,200 square feet in size, 1,184.3 square feet. The existing house is non-conforming. It doesn't meet the 10-foot side yard setback or the 30-foot front yard setback of the R1D zoning district. This proposed garage would encroach 23 feet into that 30-foot front yard setback. There is an existing one-car attached garage on the house that would be demolished as part of the project. That garage is set back 8.7 feet from the front lot line. So this addition would be slightly more non-conforming by about 1.7 feet. This addition would also take the lot coverage of the property over the 20% allowed in R1D. The current coverage of the site's about 17.5%, and this addition would take that coverage to 23.23%, which is an extra 532 square feet over the allowed coverage. Last April, the Zoning Board of Appeals approved variance requests from the applicant to construct a garage addition. The variances approved by the board are valid for a period of 6 months, unless a building permit is obtained during that time and then the work commences. The applicant did not obtain a building permit, so that those variances that were previously granted expired. The current request is slightly modified from what was previously approved. The size of the addition in 2019 was approximately 1,088 square feet. So the current proposal is about 96.3 square feet larger. The variance granted from the front yard setback last year was a 20-foot variance, and now a 23-foot variance is being requested. So it's a 3-foot decrease setback, increased variance. Based on the previous proposal, a 3.8% variance was granted to exceed the lot coverage. With the current request, that has been dropped or reduced to by almost 0.6% due to the applicant's purchase of some property to the east. So in summary, the current request is a variance to exceed into the front yard setback or encroach into the front yard setback by 23 feet, and then to exceed the allowed coverage by 3.23%, which is an additional 532 square feet. The applicant is present on this Zoom tonight, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
I got one.
Go ahead.
So for clarification, does the purchase of property to the east change the lot coverage requirements? Is it automatically a bigger lot now?
It is a bigger lot, so the 20% standard applies to the current lot size. So that's why you see a slight reduction from the variance being requested for coverage, because there is some additional property. So
is the additional property and the current property, and I guess this is more of a not legal, but just technical question. Do they, because they have the same owner, does it automatically change lot coverage requirements?
Properties have been combined, so it's just one parcel that we're dealing with. So
that's legally been combined.
It's legally been combined. It's one parcel.
Okay, good. Good to know.
The entire parcel is subject to that 20%.
Cool. I see that I made the motion on this when this came up. You know, I thought it was a good improvement to the neighborhood. My big question, and I guess I'll just say it now, for the applicant, they can't answer at the moment, but now I'm starting to wonder, was this an attempt to not just expand a garage, but the entire living space? Just a thought. I'm just trying to understand. So I'm done.
Does any other board members have questions of staff?
I wanted to, maybe one question, Justin. Want to make sure that I am reading this correctly. The existing garage is approximately 8 point some feet into the, no, I take that back. Is 8 point some feet off the right of way.
Correct.
They're proposing to move the garage closer to the right of way. So they're asking for a bigger variance than even leaving the setback what it is now.
Correct. And when I went through some of the correspondence and things from the 2019 case, the previous request that was approved was a 10-foot setback from the front. And part of the board's deliberation was, well, while it's still non-conforming, it's a slight improvement of the current situation.
Yes, and to just follow and just to follow up very quickly on Nicholas's assumption there. Would there be any difference in the variance requests before us if the entire addition were not garage, but partial living space as well? There would be no difference in variance requests, right?
Correct. So if the applicant's
Okay.
intention may be to construct a garage, that wouldn't stop them or a future owner from obtaining building permits from the township to convert it to living space. So it could become living space in the future. You have to consider anything and everything that could happen with that living or with that area.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no additional questions for staff, I'd like to indicate that 31 owners within 300 feet were notified of this proposed variance. No letters received in favor, no letters received in opposition, no letters returned by United States mail. And with that, if the proponent would like to give us the reasons why he is requesting these variances, we would appreciate it at this time.
Justin, if you could just give me a little help on whose speed I should bring up.
Steve's, please.
Anyone else?
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for having me tonight. Where to begin? Maybe I'll start by addressing a couple of questions which the board posed as far as a garage and living space. Mr. Shellac, great question. I can assure you at this point in time, it is for me only garage space. Having a half-car garage is kind of limited, especially with kids and a wife in snow in Michigan. But definitely a good question. Mr. Powell, you brought up the question of the 8.7 versus the 7 foot. It was never intended. The 8.7, I believe, is to brick structure. And I'm not an architect or a builder. I'm a fireman, right? The 8.7 was to the brick structure. The way the 7 would have been worded would have been to the soffit. So you'd have that 1.5 foot, 1.7 feet of soffit overhang, which is what I was understanding would be the variance. So the 8.7 and the 7, we're talking two different things, but would be the same distance off the road for actual physical materials, if that makes sense. So it's kind of the exact same lineage as where the garage is now. We're just talking to either the overhang soffit or the actual building material. Okay. To answer some of the other points, yes, we did pick up some property next door. I think it was approximately like 3,000 square feet in order to improve our lot coverage for the hopes of a potential garage. We applied last year and were accepted for a variance for the garage. Unfortunately, post application, the builder came back and had elevated his quote by over $50,000. So takes you from a very expensive storage and garage of $70-some thousand to $120-some thousand. So hence the lapse in the application, no permits pulled, searching for a builder at that time was kind of an issue. So here we are again, making contact with a new builder. He had advised us, even if we're going to go back, we might as well go back for the existing lot line on the road. Reason being is we wouldn't be able to comfortably fit a vehicle in the setback, which the 10-foot was between the house and where the 10-foot setback was. Hence the changes in the current request. Other than that, everything else would be the exact same. Would be no higher than the current building is now. There's no one across the street to obstruct the view, but it would not be any higher than the current 1.5-story residential. And would be the existing garage would be demolished, which is non-conforming and let's just say not built up to any codes or standards. And that would be turned into additional parking, which is at a premium on the lake. So those things would aid in helping me out for a wife and loading kids in the winter and additional storage, which does not happen right now with one kid here who's jumping around and one on the way. So that's the reason for the request this evening. So if you see fit, I would really appreciate it.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the proponent?
Yes.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mike.
Chairperson, I guess. I wondered, Mr. Gangler, it appears that the layout of the garage is for 2 cars side by side and the ability to pull a toy or something else into the garage deeper, whether it's another car or another 2 cars or a boat, snowmobile, whatever. I grew up on the lake, and so I'm certainly aware of all the toys and the additional storage room you need in order to keep things under weather, out of the weather, I mean. So I'm certainly sympathetic to your need. I guess because of the layout of the garage, it's rare that a modern car is over 20 feet long. And so currently you're showing that at a little over 21 feet in depth. But in reality, you could pull almost a semi all the way in from front to back on one side, but the other side then would be shorter.
Correct. That is correct.
So a smart car on the left side or the west side of the garage, you'd have plenty of room. And certainly if you had a extended pickup truck, you could easily pull it in on the right side or the east side of the garage. So tell me why, and I kind of explained this to other people, that you're asking us to kind of break the law a little bit, and we lost his picture, I think. Nope, we lost Debbie DeHart's picture. So you jumped around on my screen.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Don't get too dizzy. It's okay.
Yeah, that's right. So you're kind of asking us to allow you to break the White Lake Township law in order to accommodate your desire, and a want is not necessarily a hardship. So can you help me understand what the hardship is of not approving something like what was approved last year with a 10-foot variance instead of a 10-foot setback instead of a 7-foot setback?
Absolutely. And the reason being is speaking with the township and the planning division, wondering what exactly, because since we haven't secured a firm builder yet on a firm quote, the options that were proposed from the builder that we've been talking to now is to par down based on price and just do the 2-car off the front if it's deemed unfinancially or not necessary to have the pull through that you see for the storage. In which case, if that was the case, where the quote was just astronomical, in order to avoid wasting your time, his time, and everything else, to just do the 2-car off the front with the variances that exist or that existed last year would be impossible. My goal is to not have to use all of that variance if this garage were to take shape and actually materialize in a financially viable way. The secondary or backup would be to stay within the variance requested, though, to have a 2-car without the pull through so it's financially feasible, but still be able to maintain or to have some type of garage setting, and in which case then you would still need the 10-foot setback. Is that
okay? So let me rephrase this a little bit, maybe from my viewpoint. If you do a cost per cubic foot of space, if you lost 3 feet off the front of your garage that you're asking for, and you had that square footage then allowed to be, or you built it on the back of the garage, so you still ended up with the depth, same cubic foot of area within the garage, you kind of accomplish the same thing. So that, my personal feeling is I'm not nearly as concerned about the percent of lot coverage as I am in that garage being pushed so far out the road. When you look down your road, your garage sticks right out, and you can't miss it. Yeah. You got a couple other garages out there as well, but they're quite a ways down the road each way. Yeah. And so it's kind of in your face when you have that garage right out there so close to the road. So kind of every foot matters to the way it looks anyway. So I'll stop now, and I appreciate your answers.
No worries. Thank you for your attention.
Do any other board members have any questions of the proponent? If there are none, then I will be opening the public hearing up. For those in the public that wish to join us this evening, you must press *9 in order to speak. And we are dealing with our first case, which is 2518 Tackles. And Ken, is there anybody calling in, do you know?
There are no members of the public on the phone at this point, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Seeing that there are no public joining us, assuming Ken will let us know in the next 20 seconds or so if somebody does come in. I am going to close the public hearing at this time, knowing, please understand, if Ken does find somebody coming in immediately, I will reopen the public hearing to allow them to speak. So with that, board members, is there any discussion that we need? Public hearing is now closed. Yep.
Personally, I still feel good about this. I think it's still a good addition to the neighborhood. I hear Mr. Powell's concern about being too close to the road. I think that's a valid concern. If there is a way to tweak around it, certainly that would be a positive. I also have a hunch that over time, we're going to be moving a little closer to the roads. Not dangerously, just a little bit more. As people are trying to move away from the lakes, keep the views, or at least keep the line the same. And I'm still feeling good about this. And I appreciate that they've added the property that's part of the whole now.
Thank you, Nick. Anybody else have any comments?
Yes, Madam Chairman. I certainly am sympathetic and believe that a garage is needed. The existing one car or half car or quarter car garage is virtually just a shed. And so something else is needed. I would certainly prefer it to be wider than deeper. And I guess in contrast to Nick's concern, I don't think the Planning Commission, the board, or the ZBA will ever get used to having even a 10-foot setback from right-of-ways. Certainly, maybe closer. And certainly, lakefront lots need to have a bigger percentage of coverage allowed. We see that all the time. And Justin, just as a matter of course, we should probably look at that from a planning perspective to allow more percentage on lakefront lots and R1D lots in particular. But I would not be in favor of giving more than a 10-foot setback variance. That still allows a modern car to pull in 16 foot long, and he can then extend it the east side of the garage back as far as he wants. I believe that that'd be a really good compromise, and I would not be in favor of granting anything greater than that. I think you were wise last year.
So, Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
if Mr. Powell give me a proposal. Because I'd love to hear something that you think would work, because I'd be happy to work with you on that and support it.
Well, here's what I think, that if we left the percent lot coverage the same, he could actually allow the garage could be made wider, because that percentage of the lot coverage could be taken up to the west a little bit, or to the east. We could widen it out a little bit. But I would like to see the end result being 10 foot off the right-of-way line instead of 7 feet. I was, in reading the discussion from last year, I followed it really well, and I thought it was wise what you guys did. And he did buy more property to allow for a bigger addition, and I'm okay with that. But I still think it would the neighborhood would appreciate having that garage just a little further off the road.
Okay. And for what it's worth, I'd be happy to support any kind of tweaked motion to make that work.
Let's hear what maybe Madam Chairperson and Dave might have to say, and Debbie.
Well, I agree with both of you. Mike, I definitely agree with you. I am not comfortable. I'll be very honest. I am not comfortable with anything that's presented right now. I want that 10-foot too. It's just what he's proposing, in my opinion, is unsafe. And one of the things that this board's charged with is health, safety, and welfare. And at 7 feet, I feel that we will be contributing to a possibility of something potentially happening because there are only 7 feet to the building instead of 10. I'd actually like to see greater than 10, but I'm comfortable with 10.
I agree. I think 7 is awfully close to the road. And I guess can't see why we can't stay with what we approved last year. I do appreciate the fact that he did get more land and the lot coverage is better. But I do agree with you, Joe, on the safety of the 7 feet versus the 10 feet. 3 feet's a lot of room. You could fit a child in there.
Yes.
The applicant has a comment to make.
Yes, I was just going to inquire, as when the 7 feet is written down there, though, the current, like I said, once again, I'm not a builder, but the current lot dimension off the road is 8.7 feet. That is to the actual brick building, correct? Not to the soffit. So with this, when I say the 7 feet, that is to the soffit, not to the brick building. So if we were going to do a 1.5 foot soffit, it would be at 8.7 feet off the road.
Can I chime in, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
The building plans reviewed by the township measure the 7-foot setback to the edge of the structure. So if that is the way the applicant's describing it, it's not shown that way on the plans.
So what you're saying then, Justin, is from the front of the building at pavement to the right of way, 7 feet.
Correct. That's how it's shown on the plans.
Thank you.
In front of the building equals wall or overhang?
Right, the wall, the structure, where the footing, the outside edge of the footing.
Then I apologize. I wrote the variance request incorrectly then. I should have been meant to say the exactly where the current building is at, which would be 8.7 feet.
And I'm just going to own something. I want to appreciate all of what you said because as some of you know, about 3 months ago, we had a truck run into our house at like 25 feet off of the property line. So it's actually, you kind of put it in a different perspective for me. So thank you.
Yeah. I have 2 other points maybe to point out to my colleagues.
Yes, Mike.
Even if we put it at 10 feet, that does not allow a car to pull 90 degrees off the roadway and not stick out the back of it into the street.
Mm-hmm.
However, 10 feet does allow a parallel park. So you could pull a car in sideways and get out of the car on each side. 7 feet, quite frankly, a car is 6 feet wide, which means opening any door, your door would be out in the street. So 10 feet's a normal, what I like is a normal parking space. So at least that provides that. And then there's a technical item that I picked up while I was out there. And if you think about it a little bit, there are overhead power lines that exist along this side of the street. Normally there is a 12-foot easement for those power lines centered on the power line. So you have a 6-foot fall line each side of that, of those power lines. So that if they were to break, they don't fall down on a structure. They appeared to me to be about 3 to 4 feet over the current structure. So we cannot, it wouldn't be fair to move that structure back far enough to get out of the fall line, that additional 6 feet on the side. But if it were to snap, then if we keep it back to 10 feet, I believe that that wire would drop on the pavement and not on top of his structure.
Good point, Mike.
I think the applicant has something to say.
Go ahead, sir.
Thanks. Mr. Powell, if I could address that, it's a very good point. DTE does have 12-foot horizontal setbacks, and I believe it's 21 feet vertical setbacks from any type of primary or secondary line. So we're currently in violation of both of those. For that reason alone, the secondary lines which are there feed only my house. So there's a corner pole that feeds the neighbor's house. The secondary lines come to the pole that's there that I've, 1 minute, and my daddy's on the phone, please. Sorry, guys.
Okay, it's okay.
I know. It's the new normal, right?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So where was I saying? So, the power
Secondary
lines.
lines.
Secondary lines. Secondary lines only feed my house. So those would have to go underground. So the primaries would come to the pole, they'd go down, they'd go underground feed to the new meter on the side of the house. And that would alleviate your horizontal and your vertical considerations for DTE.
So are you saying that they would not be there after this build?
The secondary lines would not, no. The primary lines would have to stay because they feed the rest of the neighborhood, but you're well within your 21-foot vertical lines after that based on the dimensions of the garage.
Yeah, and the AT&T and cable lines are directly underneath the power lines as well. So, yeah. Okay, thank you.
No worries. Thank you. It's a great question.
Board members, what's our pleasure?
Well, Mr. Powell already changed my mind a little bit. So I'm going to pause for a
Sorry
moment.
about that, guys.
No, I like that you sharpened my sword. So that's good. That's good.
And if I may say one last thing in closing, to your all of your concerns, if it was up to me, absolutely. If I could get a builder that could build the garage for what was quoted and go the 7-foot setback or 10-foot setback, sorry, with the L-shaped garage, absolutely. That is my first and ultimate choice, right? That approves or meets, like you said, parallel parking, meets safety concerns, and it provides actually the most amount of space for storage for myself. This was suggested by the current builder in the happenstance that the quote comes back something astronomical once again. It still allows for a variance to be able to park 2 cars with having an extended pickup truck in the front of the house. Otherwise, with a 10-foot and a 20-foot truck, and 1-foot walls, there'd be no way that I'd be parking inside of a garage with my vehicle.
Yeah.
Which, is what it is at the end of the day, but it's kind of the point of building an actual storage or garage.
It sounds, based on what you're saying, that you would have gone ahead with what was approved in April of last year had the quote not been so different.
120%, absolutely.
Okay.
It was quoted at $70-some thousand, and it came back at 120-some thousand.
120.
Right after, and he was actually in the ZBA meeting for his house right after me, so he saw it get approved, and the next thing you know, a week later, I got a different quote.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So absolutely, I would have done that one for sure.
Okay.
And just to chime in, while we may be sympathetic to the applicant's financial situation, the zoning board of appeals can't consider
Absolutely.
economic factors.
Yep.
No, I get that.
Yeah, we know.
Go and say something, please. Thank you.
Yeah, but thank you, Justin. Appreciate it. Yeah.
So do we have a motion, board members?
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, you guys.
We're going to let you lead this one.
I got myself in trouble last week, remember?
Thanks for talking, Mike. It's your turn.
Leading the charge.
No, let me say my little speech, remember? Because
Yeah.
I get paid the big bucks. I can't make these motions, so.
That's right. All right, then I would be glad to. Madam Chairman,
Yes,
I
please.
move to approve the variances requested by Steve Granger from Article 3.1.6E of the zoning ordinance for parcel number 12-11-478-038, identified as 2518 Tackles Drive, in order to construct an attached garage that would encroach 20 feet into the required front yard setback and exceed the maximum lot coverage by 3.23%, or 532 square feet. That means that variance number 1 from Article 3.1.6E, the front yard setback, the standard setback requirement is 30 feet. I move to grant a variance of 20 feet, leaving a result of 10 feet. Variance request number 2 in the same article, maximum lot coverage of 20% standard, still allowing for a variance requested of 3.23%, or a result of 23.23%. And all of this approval has the condition that the applicant will obtain all necessary permits from the White Lake Township Building Department as required.
Thank you, Mike. Do we have a support on that?
Support.
Second it.
Hannah, may we have a roll call, please?
Yep. DeHart,
Yes. For the reasons that Mike has laid out and for safety concerns on the setback.
Powell,
Yes, for the reason that I believe it was, it's a reduction in the existing non-conforming use, overhead power lines, and it allows for a car to be parked parallel between the garage and the street right-of-way.
Shellac,
Yes, for the reasons stated and for the reasons in general that I stated in April of 2019, that this is an improvement to the neighborhood.
Walls,
I vote yes. I believe a practical difficulty exists with the existing lot and configuration. And this will improve the area as well as the safety to the location.
Spencer,
Yes, for the reasons stated. Since we have gone from 7 feet to 10 feet, I feel it is a safer option, and for all the other reasons that were so stated as well. You have your variance, sir. Again, you have the 6 months in which to pull a permit, or you'll be back before us again.
And I think there's plenty of room now for a new bike for her to park
Oh,
in the
boy.
garage.
Yes, we see your family here. Hello.
Did you say hi? Wave. There you
There
go.
you
Welcome
go.
to live streaming,
Yep.
Yes.
Well, thank
Gotta
you,
love
live
ladies and
stream
gentlemen.
government.
Yeah.
Thank
Say
you.
thank-
Steve,
Yes.
give Hannah, our recording secretary, a few days. You'll need a copy of the rough draft of the minutes before you, and then of course, you have to call for an appointment before they're gonna let you in the building.
Okay.
So just so you know all of that.
Yep. No, it's good to know. I appreciate it.
Good luck with you.
All right. Thank you, ladies and
Madam
gentlemen. Appreciate
Chairwoman.
your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Powell.
Madam
Thank you.
Chairwoman, it'll take
Thank you.
less than 1 minute, but I'm grabbing a water, okay?
All right, I will wait. Go for it.
Thank you, guys.
Justin, who is the the next participant we'll bring up?
Mike, Carol, and Sarah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
You're welcome. Calling the next,
It's French. I hope that's okay.
that's fine. Calling in the next case, the applicant is Mike and Carolyn Roy, 471 Joanna K, also identified as 1222-427-014. The applicant requests to construct a second-story addition on an existing one-story house requiring a variance from 3.1.6E, R1D, single-family residential, side yard setback, and Article 7.28A, repairs and maintenance is required due to the value of improvements and increase in cubic content on a non-conforming structure. For the record, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20. It looks like 29 letters were sent within 300 feet. No letters received in favor, no letters received in opposition, and none returned by United States Mail. And with that, can we have staff report, please?
So the applicants for your second case are Mr. and Mrs. Roy, and they are proposing to expand a non-conforming single-family structure with a second-story addition. This property is located at 471 Joanna K on Oxbow Lake. The property is just over a half acre in size and zoned R1D, which is a single-family zoning district. Based on the plan submitted by the applicant, the first floor would be expanded over the footprint or a majority of the footprint of the existing one-car garage, and a new second floor would be constructed over the entire first floor. The house was built in 1947. Like I said, it is non-conforming. It's located 3 feet 4 inches from the east side property line. The minimum side yard setback is 10 feet in the R1D zoning district. The zoning ordinance says non-conforming structures may not be enlarged or altered in a way which increases the non-conformity. The addition would be 1,504.5 square feet in size. It would encroach 5 feet into the required 10-foot side yard setback, so they're seeking a 5-foot variance for that. The ordinance also limits the value of improvements that can be done on a non-conforming structure in any 12-month period. It limits it to 50% of the state equalized value. In this case, the state equalized value of the structure or of the property is $175,859.50. So the maximum extent of the improvements in this 12-month period cannot exceed, it's almost $87,929.75. The value of the proposed work is $175,000. So a variance to exceed the allowed value of improvements by 199% is being requested. The applicants are present on the Zoom call tonight, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does any member of the board have questions for staff?
I just have one observation, Madam Chairperson.
Yes.
Just a note to Justin and Sean, if he's still listening in. With the change in the economy over all these years, we may want to look at that state equalized value percentage again. It's almost hard to stay within that 50% rule with the cost of construction and the cost of the existing SUVs. So SEVs, I mean. So it's this is kind of a strange to still have this in the ordinance, but anyway, I just throw that out there.
Just a quick comment on the intent of that section of the ordinance. It is pretty common in multiple municipalities, and the intent is to, over time, reduce or eliminate nonconformities. So this ordinance isn't designed to prevent people from improving their structures, but it gives the township an opportunity to look at the property and say, okay, we're going to allow this nonconformity to continue, because in time, the idea is that they should be reduced or eliminated. So this isn't to prevent people from making improvements, but it's just to give us a closer look so a dilapidated shack doesn't become a mansion on the lake. It's not intended to discourage people from improving their properties.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate that.
Almost like the, pouring the little bit of cool water into the hot tea just to pause it for a second and see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Any other questions of staff?
Do we have any idea what's happening to the house if you're standing in the driveway to the left, so to the east of the property?
So to the east, so you can see that that's the detached garage, or I'm sorry, it's not detached, but that's where it's 3 feet 4 inches from that side lot line. As part of this project, they're going to remove that east foundation wall of the garage and shift it so it's 5 feet from the side lot line. And then the entire addition would go up above the first floor of the house. So the entire, it's right now it's a 1-story structure. It would become a 2-story structure. And part of this is too, even if it's a 2nd-story addition, it still has to meet the setback. So the area of the nonconformity is being expanded. So that's why they're here.
I guess I was asking more about the structure. It looks like a separate house to the east.
That's,
Oh.
that's a separate property. So I can't say what's going on that property.
Good point, Debbie.
Yep, that's not on the applicant.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
Well, I saw a survey stake out there, so I wondered if something was happening with that at the same time.
Sorry, it's a separate property, and I don't believe the applicant for this case owns that property.
Okay, cool.
Any other questions? If not, if the proponents are on board and they'd like to give us an explanation of what they're requesting, we would appreciate it at this time.
Bringing them up now, Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Hi there. My name is Sarah Roy, daughter of Michael and Carolyn. And we are currently trying to make the house a little bit more, we're trying to get everything updated so that my parents that have lived here for probably about 4 or 5 generations can stay living here as time progresses. So we are trying to get everything back up to code. We're trying to make things a little bit more comfortable so we can have this a little bit more of a multi-generational home for my family. The 2nd story, I guess the additional square footage that we were asking for the state equalized value. We also, like the gentleman before us, were having some problems with the contractor. So that actually, at the very least, it may be reducing the square footage of the house and being a little bit more compliant with the state equalized value. We may have to reduce that 2nd story. The variance in regards to the side yard is we're trying to become a little bit more compliant with, and that would be the main living space right there, hopefully. So we're just trying to get become a little bit more compliant, become a little bit more up to code with all of the house in addition. And I'm not sure if there's any additional questions.
Board members, do we have any questions for the proponents?
I guess I have one maybe, and Sarah, you might let me know. And I apologize if I didn't see it, but what's being proposed up on the 2nd floor?
That would be bedrooms and an additional bathroom.
Okay, how many bedrooms in your current structure?
There are currently 2 bedrooms. 3 bedrooms. I apologize. 3 bedrooms.
Okay, that's fairly important because the health department, you're going to want to be careful not to violate the health department's issues. And Mike was kind enough to show me around this afternoon, and I really admire you guys for being able to do this with them. It'll be really nice, except the house will be a lot bigger to clean than the existing one.
True.
So, Mr. Powell, are you talking about safe egress in terms of the health, or which part?
No, you might know that one of my expertise are engineered septic systems, and Mike and I talked about that a little bit today as well, the homeowner, and the existing house. I wanted to make sure that their existing house had 3 bedrooms so that the proposed new home will have 3 bedrooms as well. That should not trigger a change in the use by the health department for the septic field.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other board members have questions of the proponent? If not, I will open the public hearing up on this case. Again, this case is a case of Mike and Carolyn Roy at 471 Joanna K. If you are wanting to speak on this case, please be advised that you must press *9 in order to speak. Ken, do we have anybody out there that wishes to speak on this case?
I see no members of the public called in at this point, Madam Chair.
Okay, then with that, I am going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for any additional discussion that we may have.
I guess my only question is, has anyone determined that the existing one-story structure can support a second story?
Justin, do you want to answer that?
So the applicant with their building permit application will have to have a structural engineer certify that the existing foundation can support a second story.
Okay.
And not just the foundation, but the first story, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, Debbie, for that question. That was in the back of my mind, but I couldn't put words to it, so thank you.
What normally happens here, so that everyone knows, and so that you certainly know that it's not really within our jurisdiction, but normally what happens is everyone goes into these with the thought that you can utilize the existing foundation and the walls and all that stuff. And by the time you open them up and look at them, you find that 1940 walls weren't built the same and have disintegrated since they were built. And so you end up with more cost trying to support that second story when you get into it.
Thank you, Mike. Any other questions, board members?
Joe, I didn't tell Justin I was going to jump in and do this, but I want to make mention because these applicants came in before Justin came aboard and I initially met with them. And I just want to say for the record that their original application had more significant variance requests than what you see tonight. And I just want to let the ZBA know that they immediately worked with the staff to try to minimize the variances that they were seeking in order to come forward with the least possible variance necessary. And I just thought, you know, for the record, I would mention that because I had the initial conversation with them and they did improve their request to try to, you know, make this, you know, minimize the impact of the request that they're making. So I thought that was important for the record to reflect.
Thank you, Sean, for sharing
Thanks,
that.
Mr. O'Neill. I mean, actually, I kind of even heard a little bit of that in the presentation from them, but I appreciate you doubling down and telling us that. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just point out something as well, and I believe if we wanted to hold right to the letter of the ordinance, they have enough room on this site to move another 10 feet to the west. But then I kind of pull it, and it would really improve the distance away from that other structure that Debbie pointed out to the east. But there comes a point to where you start talking about practical difficulty, and they're trying to maintain 2 existing foundations there, one in the front and the west side there. And I think they have stepped up, as Sean pointed out, and are going to make the nonconformance less on the east side. So I kind of like what they're proposing.
Thank you, Mike. My only problem with this case is that this board is charged to reduce or eliminate nonconformity. And by a requested variance of almost 200% over the state equalized value, until we get that portion of the ordinance, if Planning Commission and town board members agree to change it, I have a problem with it. 200% is an enormous amount to allow the increase of the non-conforming area when we're charged to reduce or eliminate.
So, Madam Chairwoman, are you concerned with our approval of something that big, or more with the statute itself?
It's a matter of both, Nick.
Yeah.
Too many times we have cases that come before us, and if my concern is, would we be setting precedents? And if once we set precedents, we can never turn back that page. Whereas with the Planning Commission and the board working at least with the SEV, and somehow changing it, especially on a non-conforming lake lot, I can't do it. I'm sorry. I apologize, but I cannot. That's what we're charged to do, is to make certain that we eliminate or reduce nonconformity.
So if we say yes to this, how do we say no to 150 or even 125 the next day?
Exactly. That's it. Exactly.
Your decisions are not
If-
precedent setting, and every application stands on its own. I would say, and I think Justin touched on it, and I think Mike Powell, you brought up a good point. Maybe this does need to be looked at, and this is really a catch-all section of our ordinance to prevent someone from having, a fishing shanty. I mean, there are some really dilapidated structures in the township that are on, primarily on lake lots, and that is not the house that we're talking about now. They're just building a significant addition on a very large piece of property compared to, most other lake lots. But this is a chance for the township to catch something that just needs to be flat out demolished and not rebuilt. That's not the situation here. They're living in this home. This is a livable home. You've seen other cases more recently where it's a structure that, and I won't name a case, but it should be demolished. And the value is so significantly, I guess, small that it really is, it's almost not worth debating. In this case, they're just putting a very sizable improvement on a home that's smaller and older, and they're being very honest about the dollars and cents involved in it, and it's what it's going to cost. So I think this provides an opportunity for us to hit the brakes on some of these old non-conforming structures that are dangerously placed. And I don't know if it's, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Joe. I understand what you're saying, but I think that it's okay that we're considering these. It gives us a chance to certainly weigh all the options in every case. And it also gives us an opportunity to try to make gains on an application, like in this case, they're moving from 3 or 4 feet or 3 feet 4 inches to a property line to 5. So yeah, they're putting a significant addition on the house and increasing its value, which is probably a good thing for the neighborhood. But at the same time, we're making gains in safety from a side yard setback standpoint, and making the house more, or I should say less conforming, non-conforming, or more conforming in the side yard setback. So there are positive aspects of this moving forward too.
So then what you're saying is you don't think that we would be setting precedents? Because I understand exactly what you're saying with the improvements. Yes, it's a definite improvement. And that is one of the things that we also have to look at. But you can assure me that if I were to give a yes on this at 199%, that I would not be setting a precedent in a court that we might have to fight a case on sooner or later?
Well, I'm going to be careful. I'm going to be careful because I'm not the township attorney, but
True.
what I'll just say is I'm going to use an example of dangerous buildings. And Mr. Powell, at the township board, you see from time to time dangerous buildings come through the board for demolition. Many of those houses are, don't have the value of a beat up used car. And so this section of the ordinance isn't, in my opinion, in place to prevent someone like the Roy family from improving their home. It's an older home, it's an 80-year-old home, and it was not built maybe to be a family home, but that's how it's being used now. There are hundreds of other homes just like theirs around this township. And so I think, well, the way I look at it is that it's in place more to prevent someone from taking a dangerous building that might be falling to the ground and, you know, try to improve it. It's a way to stop someone from keeping something that's dangerous and non-conforming, you know, limping it along and keeping it up to avoid having to tear it down to either be conforming or to meet all of our safety requirements. So, Joe, I guess I don't know how a court would rule, but I've always been told that your decisions, you know, are specific to a parcel. This parcel is unlike any other parcel, and this request is unlike any other request in this entire township of 10,000 plus parcels and 32,000 people. So it's hard because there won't ever be an identical request to this for this to be precedent setting. So someone may come in with 100% and you may say, it's just not appropriate. We granted 199, but your 100% less appropriate than their 199. You may see someone come in at 500%. We had a recent case where someone's asking for, you know, a couple $1,000% that hasn't come back to you for a decision. So, I mean, they're all over the board. We're going to talk about in the next case a question about value. It's going to come up again, and we're going to work through that. So that's not a great answer because I can't give you a yes or no, but I do think that, you know, you can distinguish in your any motion you would make this request in this case from all others, and I would cite specifically, you know, the reasons like we would in any case for or against a variance request, and you know, set this one apart from any other case that you may see.
Thank you, Sean. You have definitely put it in perspective for me, and have allowed me to be able to make a decision that I can live with, and hopefully the proponents can as well. Thank you.
And I'm not trying to sway anyone. It's just my opinion, and Justin's probably going to come in here and unplug my computer because I told him I wasn't going to talk tonight.
Well, and I want to thank Joe for her question though, because, you know, it goes with my thing about the importance of being, you know, consistent and honorable. You know, we stand for what we say and we're consistent. So I really appreciate your question, Joe.
Not a problem.
And maybe I can shed a little of my light on it as well. Piggybacking on what Sean said, look at it this way. If this house, if they moved that wall 5 more feet to the west, they could put a $10 million house on this property and increase it 10 zillion times. So is that 5 feet going to keep us from allowing them to do something that's going to improve the neighborhood versus leave it as it is? And so that 5 feet, now if it was something dramatic, then I'd be all over that. But for 5 feet to allow them to do this, so that's kind of the way I look at it a little differently.
Right.
Okay.
Mike, I agree. It's not to prevent people from improving their home. It's to prevent people from trying to shoehorn in something or keep their foot in the door on a property that should just be demolished.
Yeah.
That is not the situation with the Roy's house. It's not a dangerous building. It's not a dilapidated structure. It just happens to be a small house, and they want to put, to your point, I mean, they could put, if it was a vacant lot, they could put a house several times the size, or I should say several thousand square feet larger than this on the property if it were vacant. So it really shouldn't be held against them because they're not, you know, it's just not, this isn't falling into the category of a dangerous structure or a dilapidated structure.
Well, and to be fair, they're not jumping in on the community. I mean, they've been here.
True, very true. Well, thank you. With that then, do we have a motion, board members?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Dave.
Let's see here. I move to approve the variances requested by Mike and Carolyn Roy from Articles 3.1.6E, 7.28.a of the zoning ordinance for parcel 12-22-427-014. Identified as 471 Boyanke Avenue in order to construct an addition that would encroach 5 feet into the required side yard setback and exceed the allowed value of improvements to a non-conforming structure by 199%. The required variances are as followed. Variance number 1, ordinance section Article 3.1.6E, subject side yard setback 10 feet, requested variance 5 feet, result 5 feet. Variance number 2, Article 7.2.8.a, subject non-conforming structure, standard 50% SEV at $87,929.75. Requested variance 199%, result $87,070.25 over the allowed improvements. Additionally, the applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the White Lake Township Building Department, including, I believe that's it.
That's it. Is there a support?
I'll support.
Hannah, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. DeHart,
Yes, because I feel that by moving the side yard setback, it's an improvement on this piece of property. And it will be an improvement to the neighborhood.
Powell,
I vote yes as well for the same reasons as Debbie, as well as the applicants have done their very best to minimize the variance request. And they have also kept the site distance from to the lake for the neighbors as well in their application, in their proposed addition.
Shellac,
I vote yes. The applicants have worked in partnership with the township to reduce the issues stated. I believe that the addition will be an improvement to the neighborhood, and also I do not believe that the SEV value increase is in any way precedent setting.
Walls,
Yes, for the reasons stated. Additionally, the improvement on the side yard setback going from 3.4 feet to 5 feet.
Spencer,
Yes, I also see this is a great improvement to the area, to the property itself. The proponents have worked diligently with the township, and with that, I definitely agree that we should be granting this variance. Sarah,
Yes.
you need to give Hannah a few days in order to get a copy of the rough draft of the minutes before you go back to the building department. And as we now know, you'll have to call and make an appointment before they're going to let you in the doors. But you do have your variance. You have 6 months in which to pull the permit, or you'll have to be before us once again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, good improvement.
Thank you.
And with that, calling the next case, Ken. Case is Andre B. Newman, 267 Lakeview Drive, also known as 1226-179-029. The applicant requests to construct an addition on an existing one-story house requiring a variance from Article 3.1.6.e, R1D, single-family residential, front yard setback. Ken, is the proponent with us at this time?
I believe so, Justin. That's David and Andre, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, with that then, can we have staff report, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the applicant is Mr. Newman, and he's proposing to construct a two-story addition on the existing single-story house at 267 Lakeview Drive. This property is almost a half acre in size and is zoned R1D. The house is a corner lot. It has frontage on Bramblebrae Drive. The majority of the site, if you look at the site plan, is the driveway is located in the Lakeview Drive right of way. This house that's on the property was built in 1927. It is considered non-conforming because it doesn't meet the 30-foot front yard setback. The proposed addition is 1,027.8 square feet in size. As I mentioned, it would be a two-story addition. It would connect the existing house on the south side of the property with a
Justin, your audio feed is breaking up.
We lost him.
Yeah, Justin, we're gonna have to find another option, either call in or maybe grab Sean's computer.
Yeah, why don't you come in here and my name's on the screen, so don't say anything crazy when you come in here, Q.
While he's getting resituated, I'd like to indicate that 33 letters were sent to everyone within 300 feet of the proposed variance. No letters received in favor, no letters received in opposition, no letters returned by United States mail. And with that, you're back on, Justin.
All right, just give me a second here to
Sure.
get situated. Sorry about that, guys. So as I was saying, this addition would be just over 1,000 square feet in size. It would connect the existing house on the south side of the property with a detached garage on the north side of the property. This addition would encroach 19.6 feet into the required 30-foot front yard setback with an end result of a 10.4 foot setback. The garage, when it becomes, well, the garage is currently non-conforming. It doesn't meet the front yard setback. When it's attached, it'll be required to meet the principal setbacks or the principal structure setbacks. It would need to meet the 30-foot setback. It would be non-conforming. So the requested variance by the applicant was 19.6 feet. As part of this, the applicants on their building permit applications have to provide a valuation for the work. The applicant did not provide a value, but after the fact informed staff the proposed work is estimated at $19,500 in value. Staff does not concur with that valuation of work, and with the state equalized value of the property at $62,000, the maximum extent of improvements in a 12-month period can't exceed $31,000. So that variance was not requested or published, so the board will need to consider that as they deliberate on this case. The applicant and his architect is here tonight. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Justin. Any questions of staff, board members?
Oh, sorry, Dave.
So with this question of the SEV, can we even move forward with this?
So you do have some options. The board, and it's really what your comfort level is. If you were so inclined to approve the requested variance, you could condition it on the project not exceeding 50% of the state equalized value. However, we don't have a valuation of the project. We would have to confirm that at the township. Another option would be tabling the case, and the applicant could come back and both variances could be considered concurrently if they did indeed need that other variance. Or if you reviewed the project and rejected it outright on what was being requested, you could do that as well.
Justin, and I know Nick's not on live with us tonight, so this is, I know, a building official's question, but
Sorry, every time you say Nick, I'm getting a little
I know.
confused.
Sorry.
Can we just use, what's his middle name? That'd be easier.
Well, we could call him Mr. Spencer, but people would think I'm talking about some relative of mine.
I could go by Reverend Dr. Shellac, but that would be really ostentatious. I'm so sorry. Okay, please continue.
And Mike, you may actually be able to answer my question, but what is the dollar amount per square foot in today's market? Do we know what it costs to build a house per square foot, or a building or a structure of anything?
Yes, the best guidance I can give you is you can't build a structure for under $120 a square foot, and unless you just join the rooms together. So if they didn't want to do any finishes in there and just go with particle board floors or something, they could maybe get it in. My personal opinion is that if this board did not grant them any of the approvals or the approval of the setback requirements, then the SEV valuation is moot. So it might be good to at least give them something they can continue with their project. And I don't even think we have to make it subject to, because it's assumed subject to. They can't go over the 50% SEV. So they could submit just walls and an open room to keep it under that SEV, and then come back in if they wanted to put a light bulb in it or something.
Okay, thank you.
My question is, if they got their variance for this setback, would they have to come back with more fees? Then would it be better for them financially to table this?
Good point.
If we tabled it, then they wouldn't have to come back for another variance.
I'm sorry, what was that? Debbie, can you repeat that, please?
If we approve the setback variance and then they needed to come back for the SEV variance, that would require another ZBA meeting and then more fees, where if we just tabled it, then they could put them both on as one.
Okay.
Excellent point.
So almost what I'm thinking is there a way that we could slightly deliberate to give some guidance?
Well,
I've said this before, right? Just give them some guidance before they come back.
right. And
Perhaps we should let them an opportunity to hear what
Fair enough. Yeah.
state.
Yep.
yes, I think that if you have no more questions of staff, then if the proponent is present, would he please join us?
Bringing them up now, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I'm David Hazen. I'm the designer on this piece of property. And this kind of became a moot point. Well, it's not a moot point at this point. A year ago, I came to the township with a preliminary plan and the site plan, basically from the SIV from the county that was originally on this plan, and came into your office at the township, or the township office, sorry, not before you guys, and presented this to them saying, hey, this is a non-conforming structure. This is a non-conforming lot. The road's not within the right of way. It's across the street almost into the neighbor's property. And what we're trying to, I kind of went over things. He said, okay, let's downsize it. Let's keep it within the setbacks, within the existing setbacks of the non-conforming structure. So we reduced the size of the addition. We kept it back behind what was there. And then last year, Andre and his wife decided not to build the addition. So this spring, coming forward, comes in to apply for the building permit And lo and behold, this guy's gone and retired, and now they're saying, hey, you got to get a zoning board of appeals. It should be pretty straight and simple because, you know, we've went over this. You're taking the non-conforming structure. The actual addition is over 30 foot from the road itself, not the right of way, obviously, because the right of way on this property is literally 40 foot back from the property north of him. Instead of running a diagonal, they got the zigzag on the property line there, which is again making it more non-conforming. So we were told this is kind of a straightforward thing. We're not encroaching any closer on any of the lot lines, but yeah, you got to come before the board. So literally that's why we're here. You know, he's been off since March with the COVID as a school teacher, and here we are finally getting to a meeting, and I understand tabling it, but again, we're tabling on an SEV value. That structure is going to, you know, Andrew's going to do most of the work himself. Yeah, it's probably going to cost him $100,000 to do it, to get it done and finished. So if you need a number, there's a number. If you want to make it 130, make it 150. Again, it's like the last case. It's an improvement to the neighborhood. If it needs to be asked for a variance, then obviously we need to do so. Anyways, that's kind of how we got here. So I thought I'd address that, being that I'm the guy that literally came to you guys a year ago saying, hey, what do we got to do? Because normally we don't come to you with the completed finished drawing. You normally come with the preliminary, hey, this is what we're proposing. Here's the elevations. This is what we kind of want it to look like. What do you guys think? You know, he's literally paid me for complete working structural drawings based on what the planning commission told him last year. And now we're here, we're talking tabling.
I want to, sorry to interrupt. This never went before the planning commission. If they were in the office last summer, they probably talked to the previous building official, Brent Bonnevier, who's no longer with the township. The current building official and I had not worked with this applicant before they submitted for the building permit. The value of the project was not submitted on the building permit, which it's supposed to be for every project. Staff had to, after the fact, go out and request a value from the applicant. It's you just can't throw out a number with 100,000, 130,000. It needs to be verified by staff for the project, by our building official. So, and as it wasn't requested, it wasn't published, it can't be, that variance can't be approved tonight. It's only, the only thing before you is the front yard setback. I think you need to focus on that and whether or not it should be tabled until they can come back.
Thank you, Justin.
As a question, would they be able to wrap the SEV in if they came back without paying extra fees?
So they wouldn't have to pay the full application fee. We would have to renotice the case, and we can do an estimated fee for that. It would be, less than half probably of the full application fee. We would just charge them to republish the case. Again, we wouldn't have had to republish the case if they would have provided the value up front.
My concern, my heart, is that we're not overcharging citizens for, making either improved or proposed improved things on their property, and that we're not, here's this, here's this, here's this. So how do we wrap this all into a bundle so they don't pay more than they have to?
Unfortunately, in this case, they would have to republish it. If we would have caught this, we asked them when they applied for the building permit the value, and there's this, a note in the file they'd get back to us. We didn't get it. So the building permit got denied. We didn't have the value. They applied for the variance. We needed the value. Typically, if we would have had it, it would have all been wrapped up in one. You would have considered both variances tonight. We don't want to make a habit of the applicant having to pay more. We would do a very conservative estimate of what it would cost to renotice it. We don't want to charge them more than we need to.
And thank you. That makes absolute sense. What I'm wondering is just, what is the solution? What is the solution to make this easier for them?
Well,
Unfortunately, the law is very clear that we have to advertise 15 days in advance or something like that for any variance request to give the neighbors an opportunity, the public, to know what's going on. The other part of that is, although we can be as sympathetic as we can to the applicants, the township has to follow the law just like everyone else does. And the township is not allowed to make a profit. So the fees that we charge are just what the newspaper charges for the advertisement and the actual costs that the township incurs. So I follow you exactly, Nick, because I own my own company and I do things for free all the time, pro bono. The township can't do that. And so we have to just follow the law.
Well, and actually, I'm still going along with what you're saying. I just want to make sure that we don't have them come back, 3-4 times rather than maybe twice. So how can we clarify the situation so they only come back maybe again?
So prior to when they would come back, they would have to have documentation to our building official of the value of the proposed work. And we're not talking about finishes on the inside, carpet, paint, fixtures. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about the concrete. It's a slab on grade foundation. So concrete for the slab, footings. It's going to be a 2-story addition. So roof, trusses, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. We need, those estimates provided to us. We can concur with it. And then we would come to you, either they'll be under or over the 50% SEV. Right now, we don't know. We're just making our best guess that based on a 1,000 square foot 2-story addition, it's going to exceed 50% of the SEV, which is 31,000. Again, the idea of that ordinance isn't to discourage people from making improvements, but it gives the board an opportunity to look at these nonconformities and see is the request not unreasonable. So I think if they provided that information prior to the next meeting, they would only have to be back once, and you'd consider both variance requests at the same time.
And thank you. That gets to my point. Just one more time.
Correct.
Yep.
That being said,
That
being said, I really believe that and I like your thought and Dave's thought that, quite frankly, we should have some discussion about this just to talk about it. I know that I always, I appear before their ZBAs all the time, and even if I know it's going to be tabled, I appreciate the discussion in case a question comes up during the discussion that I can get an answer to for the next time they appear.
Thank you, Mike. Debbie, did you have anything to add?
well, my only concern is we, in White Lake, we don't require stake surveys for additions. Is that correct?
Correct.
So just from my previous knowledge, I do know that there are quite a few roads around the lakes area that are not in the correct places. And I do know that they've actually constructed new construction homes years ago on road right-of-ways because Oakland County put the roads in years ago to avoid taking out a large oak tree. I can tell you right where it is. But so what I'm concerned about is we're saying, okay, we are now granting an 8-foot variance or a 10-foot variance when we don't really know where the road right of way is without a stake survey. So I understand we don't require them, but that's my concern.
Thank you, Debbie.
As part of your consideration of the next request, or maybe tonight, you can advise the applicant to get a stake survey done, because if you were to approve it at the next meeting, you could condition it on them verifying the right-of-way location.
Is there any other way, because stake surveys are expensive, is there any other way for them to verify? Does Oakland County have any guidelines to verify?
They could go to the road commission, and maybe they would go out to the site and locate or mark the right of way. I don't know if that's a service they provide. That would definitely be a place to start, and maybe that's a service they provide, and it would be, if they do, they might do it for free or for a cost that's less expensive than a stake survey.
I'd like to see if Mr. Powell knows the answer to that.
I don't think they do. I'm just
No.
maybe in a perfect world, but I don't think
No.
they do that.
The only salvation we might have is, and again, it would be really important, Debbie, if they were asking for a variance more than their existing structure,
I agree.
then that's a huge issue.
Right.
Since we're going to match it, and that may be an issue as well. If we give a definite number for the setback versus to match existing structure, I'd hate for them to come back and say, oh, you missed it by a foot and now you can't build the structure as you wanted because we gave you too small of a variance or something. But you're right, Debbie, but it's expensive. They could be spending $1,500 just to get a stake survey back there.
Yes, they're expensive. I agree. And I just didn't want the board to be held responsible if Oakland County decided to pave that road and said, oh, by the way, your home is in the road right of way. I actually saw that happen. So that's
Right. So in this case, based on the information we have, the existing house is about 8 feet from the right of way. This addition that they're proposing would be just over 10 feet. So if they were, say the county wanted to pave the entire right of way, they would be paving their front yard, which wouldn't be good, but I mean, their structure would be intact and that wouldn't be an issue.
That's a good point, Justin.
just a concern.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You bet.
Any other?
I do agree that because the existing structure is there, I do agree that you wouldn't want to push it beyond in front of the existing structure, but just because I've seen messes.
Thank you. Does the proponent have any other questions or thoughts that he or wants to state?
Questions? Guess not. How should we proceed from here, I guess?
Well,
Very fair question.
yes.
So we'll work with the applicant to try to get some estimates that our building official can review before the next meeting. That's the next step. We tried to get that this week and we couldn't get it. I would have loved to come to the meeting tonight and say, hey, they gave us a value this week. We have it. It's been reviewed and confirmed. It's not an issue, but we haven't been able to do that. So that's
we got verbal quotes. We just didn't get things written down from people because we didn't even know if this would get approved.
Right.
So, I mean, I can definitely got stuff written down from people and I've gotten emails from people, but, that's about all. I don't have anything legit written down from companies because I wasn't sure if we were going to even be able to move forward with it.
And like I said, we'll work with the applicant, get what we need, and then before the next meeting, they'll be back with the required information.
Okay.
We have enough time to do that.
Okay.
To offer some guidance, just for me, I'm one vote on this board. My first question would be, I can't believe you lived more than 1 year, one winter without the house being attached to the garage. I'm certainly sympathetic to not having to put a snowmobile suit on to go from my house to the garage. So I appreciate that concern.
Yeah, the whole reason we're even doing this is we have soon to be 9th grade daughter sharing a room with a soon to be 7th grade son.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in a big bind here. So we're just trying to move quick.
So Mike, could we make a resolution about the setback variance, and then Justin, can you give them any kind of idea if they come in and the cost is going to be over 50% of the SCV, how much would it be to go to another meeting, so that if they wanted to go that route?
If I had to give off the top of my head, just a really rough estimate, probably another $100 to publish, depending on how many letters we have to send out in the mail. Maybe 150 at the most.
So it would be up to
So then it feels like a question for Joe. I mean, is it possible to vote on part but table part at the same time? It's more of a point of order, I guess.
Well, I'm not a lawyer.
I would say no, because that other variance wasn't requested. So
Yeah.
it wasn't, the whole case would have to be tabled.
Oh,
And that's just my opinion doing this for a couple of years.
However, there is one thing that we have to keep in mind. Everything that we're saying now is being recorded. So if I were not in favor of granting what is now before us, I would be saying so. And Hannah would then be recording that in the minutes as I am favorable to this. However, because of the fact that we just don't know the SEV, and so we don't know how to make sure that we're going to do it all as a complete package, with my comments now on the record, I think that the proponent can understand where I'm coming from. I am saying I do not have a problem with what is now advertised as variance number 1, but I can't proceed any further unless I get find out what the SEV is.
Yeah.
Now, I'm only speaking for myself. Just because I'm the chairperson doesn't mean I have an extreme amount of influence on my fellow board members. And board members, that's my feeling on it. I mean, right now, if we were to vote on this and it was the only thing before us, and there was no other hesitation whatsoever, I would be in favor of it. But in order for us to table this request, we definitely have to have the proponent ask us to do so, I believe. I believe that would be the proper way to proceed further.
Andre, you gotta ask.
What's that?
You have
Oh,
to ask.
Can you explain to me what tabling means? Because I don't understand what tabling means.
What it means is we'll take no action on this and you will be before us at our next meeting. Which means we can't say yes, we can't say no. We can simply say, we're going to hold this over for a month. That's going to give you the opportunity to get whatever estimates you need. And maybe Andre, what you have in emails and what you have written down in other estimates, I don't know, because I am an employee of the township, yes, but I'm the zoning board of appeals person. I'm not an inside person working on day-to-day operations. I don't know. That may be enough for Justin and the planning department to look at it and to show it to Mr. Spencer, who's our building official, and have them say, oh yeah, sure, fine, okay, this is it. And like I had said earlier, if we were voting on this right now and there was no concern whatsoever, you would have my vote. But you have to ask us, you have to say you want it tabled for us to proceed and give you that probably about a 30-day period of time, because our next meeting isn't until towards the end of July.
Yeah, we'd love to get into as soon as we can to get tabled back in there if possible.
So by tabling it, do we have to pay again for the whole?
They said around
meeting?
150 maybe, I think.
Right, you would only have to pay for the advertising part, because this has already been advertised once, but we didn't advertise with the SEV. And so, as they had indicated, it would be probably around $150 or less. But that would be, you would not have to pay for the whole thing, whereas if we voted on this as it is today and we denied it, you would be coming back before us and you would then have to pay the entire amount, whatever it was that you were charged before. You would have to pay it again.
I wish we would have known about this months ago when we first did this, but yes, we would like to be tabled.
Thank you. Board members?
Since there's, excuse me a second before you make a motion to table,
Yes.
because there's no discussion after it's seconded. I
Right.
just want to point out maybe one other thing and ask Andre and Jean Marie, how many bedrooms in your existing house right now?
2.
Okay. That being said, as you and your architects here, as you resubmit the drawings, I couldn't help but notice that you had a raised bed septic system, relatively new septic system to the east of your house. It's very critical that you know that the health department, when they review these plans, and they review all of them that come before the building department, they're going to see your 2 bedrooms upstairs, and they're going to see your 1 room downstairs with a closet in it. Their definition of a bedroom is a room with a closet in it. So just for the submittal to the building department, so you don't get caught in another little snafu there, remove the closet in that room downstairs. So you only have 2 bedrooms, and it won't get hung up then as it goes through the rest of the approval process. And quite frankly, that'll reduce your SEV by $100 because you're not going to put doors on a closet. I'm kidding. I'm just joking a little bit. But I think you're doing a wise thing. I think you notice the board is very sympathetic to your request. Apologize that it's a month later. Unfortunately, we've run into this due to another building official issue, and so it's out of our hands. But I think you're doing a wise thing.
Thanks. So we in one of the rooms down here, we should close off a closet. You're saying?
You either close off or you just don't show a closet door on it. That's all.
Oh yeah, one closet is open already actually, and actually our computer, just to kind of give you insight, our computer and all that is jammed in the living room with us. So we're actually turning one room into an office room, and then we'll have 3 bedrooms, and then we have the 3-bedroom septic field. So
okay, just okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I just have one question of staff. Justin?
Yes.
I'm assuming I don't have to open the public hearing on this because we may be having a second issue next time, or should I open the public hearing?
Right. If you're not going to take action on this tonight, you're going to table it. You do not need to open the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Then board members, I will not open let me ask, Ken, is there anybody in the audience that is present on this case?
There are no members of the telephone audience at this point, Madam Chair.
Thank you. In that case, can we?
And Madam Chairwoman, just for
Yes.
clarification, if we do not open public now, we are required to do it later, correct?
Correct. Right.
Okay.
And otherwise, if we opened it now, we would have to open it again if, when coming back, we have a second issue.
Just want to make sure there's no surprises for the Newmans, if there's anything at all that possibly could come up. Yeah.
Correct.
That's Andre.
So does Hannah, or wait, we haven't made a motion yet. Is anybody willing to make a motion to table? Board members?
I'll make a motion.
And do we have a support, well,
There is a
So-
motion in your staff report for this, if you decide to read it.
Dave, can you read the motion that's in our
Yeah.
packet? Thank you.
Yep, sure. I move to table the variance request of Andre Newman for parcel number 12-26-179-029, identified as 267 Lakeview Drive, until such time the requested variance from the front yard setback and a variance to exceed the allowed value of improvements to the non-conforming structure can be considered concurrently.
Thank you. And is there a support?
Second.
Thank you. Hannah, now may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Tahart,
Yes. I think they just need to get the amount for the construction of the addition.
Powell,
Yes.
Shellac,
Yes, so we can allow the Newmans the time they need to bring us the information so that we can make a good, wise decision that will help them and the community.
Walls,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes, for all the reasons stated. This case has been tabled. Staff will work with you as much as you need them to. I hope that I didn't overstep my boundaries, Justin, by saying that there's a possibility that whatever the Newmans have in front of them in way of emails and estimates may be helpful. Hopefully it will work out. And our next meeting for the Newmans information is scheduled for July 23rd, 2020. I do believe that is also going to be on Zoom
It
rather
will be a
than in
Zoom
person.
meeting, yep, and we will work with the applicant as much as possible to get what we need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other business, Justin?
No other business tonight.
Thank you. Then our next meeting is indeed July 23rd. And it is by Zoom. Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn
Motion to adjourn.
and a
Second.
support? All in
Second.
favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, people.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Have a good evening.
Good night.
Have a nice night.
Bye.
We just have to let YouTube wind down here for just a few seconds, so feel free to log off.
Thanks, Ken, for all you've done.
No problem. Anytime, Joe.
See you.